New information comes to light surrounding the Mission Act more than 1 year after it was passed. One America's Jack Posobiec sat down with a veterans healthcare advocate to learn more about how that bill became a reality.
All right, we're here with Bob Carey, he's the Chief Advocacy Officer of the Independence Fund, retired Navy captain. This new Shulkin book that's come out, and it talks about the Mission Act, talking about what the president has put forward in his agenda for expanding veterans' access to health care, and some of the claims that are getting a little bit of pushback. Why don't you walk us through that?
Our Chief Executive Officer, Sarah Berardo, was actually involved early on with the campaign and helping devise the president's strategy and putting some of the flesh onto the bones. And a big part of that was the president said repeatedly, veterans will have the ability to choose their own health care provider, period. When the legislation was moving through Congress, there was a lot of discussion, a lot of back and forth about what that was going to look like. And the early versions of those bills that were coming out of Congress were not very in line with the president's priorities. Senator Moran, who's going to be taking over as chairman of the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee here in January, he said in a hearing to Secretary Shulkin, the reason we don't have a bill yet is because of your double talk. You say whatever you say one thing to me, and then you say another thing to the other folks, and we come together trying to craft a bill, and we both think that you're on our side, and lo and behold, we find out that you've been saying different things to each of us, and that's why we don't have a bill yet.
And so what is he putting out in this new book?
He's saying that he was fired because of political appointees within the Department of Veterans Affairs that were also appointed at the same time that he was put in. That
and he was a holdover, right?
He was. He was originally he was renominated, so he was originally Undersecretary for Health in the Obama administration, and he was well liked. And then he was nominated by the president to be VA Secretary, and he passed, I think, 100-0. And what it looked like after time is that Secretary Shulkin may have had a different vision of what the VA needed to look like. As I understand Secretary Shulkin's book, he says that there's a number of other political appointees that were basically running a chatter campaign against him because he says they weren't, he wasn't moving fast enough to privatize the VA. Now, the president has never said he wanted to privatize the VA. The question is, should a veteran be able to choose their own health care provider? Just like they could if they were in military retirement under the TRICARE system, or like every American that's in the Medicare system can do. But if you go into the VA, so a veteran who's in Medicare gets to choose their own health care provider.
Right.
A veteran that's in TRICARE gets to choose their own health care provider. A veteran who goes into the old VA system no longer is able to choose their own health care provider. How's that fair? So that was the fundamental debate.
So basically, Shulkin probably should have paid a little bit more attention to the guy that he was accepting a job from.
The president was clear as to what he wanted, and from what I've heard from the hearing testimony and from others is that wasn't always the case with how Secretary Shulkin was approaching that.
Where can people go to find more information about what your work and just more information about this in general?
Well, the Independence Fund is a veteran service organization that helps catastrophically disabled veterans, predominantly with mobility equipment, but also with suicide prevention and support for caregivers. And our website is www.independencefund.org, and people can learn more about what we do and how they can help support that.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insights.
Thank you very much.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.